It is week 8 of the NFL, and what will we choose this week? That is the question. Before we get into it, our lines that we're going to go review are from DraftKings. I'm not sponsored. Please sponsor me. That'd be awesome. But anyway, just as an FYI, and these are the lines as of October 22nd. So, before we get into week 8, let's go into a little bit of what happened in week 7 because we had quite a decent week. We had a winning week. I am now, because of my performance last week, I am now even on the year. I've only started since week 6, so technically week 6 and week 7 bets. I'm 3 for 3 now because in week 7, what I chose is the Steelers minus 5.5 against Cincinnati. That was a loss, and that game was very, very entertaining to watch. Looking at two quarterbacks at the sunset of their careers, just going at it, just slinging that rock. It was actually quite entertaining, and it just goes to show you that the NFL has changed, and Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco, what they showed is that they are true, masters of their game and just slinging that rock and going for deep balls on Aaron's side. Joe Flacco, you pretty much saying, here you go, Higgins, here you go, Chase. Just get the ball and do what you do best. The thing that I got wrong about this was it was a short prep week. It was a Thursday night game, so that meant Joe Flacco's only second week at Cincinnati, so it was a little bit of unknown of how will he conform to Cincinnati, how will he perform. So that was a little bit of a question mark, but our answer is actually quite well. The answer there is that because there was a short prep week, what Joe Flacco did was he just resorted to things that work for a QB. What works for a QB? Getting the ball out fast, which is something that Aaron Rodgers does as well, and also getting the ball to your playmakers. And Joe Flacco had Chase and Higgins as his playmakers, and that really, really pushed that Steelers defense to its limit, really, because they were so focused on covering Chase and Higgins, which they were unsuccessfully able to do. But that actually opened up a lot of the running for Cincinnati as well, and that just led to absolute cinema game. So I'm not, mad about this one. It was just an entertaining game to watch. That's all I could ask for. NFL, awesome space where it's at right now. Now the next one, Patriots minus 7 against the Titans. This went down pretty much exactly how I predicted it. I said Cam Ward will need to throw the ball a lot, and he did need to because they were not able to run the ball against the Patriots at all. And as we can see, that caused a few turnovers, the Cam Ward fumble at the end that was, had a little bit of conversation around. But I think the bigger story here is, I know people are looking at the Cam Ward fumble, but I think the bigger thing is at least for Tennessee, is do not give up on Cam Ward. Cam Ward is your guy going forward, at least in the foreseeable future. If you go back to that first quarter of that game, Cam Ward actually looked pretty good. The Titans were, on schedule. They had things, rolling. They had their game plan going on. But from the second quarter on, the Patriots adjusted. The Patriots got into a rhythm, and that was it. Whatever the Titans did in that first quarter, things looked good. So we'll see how it goes with their new head coach on the Titans side. I don't know if it's an interim head coach or if he's going to be the head coach going forward, but do not give up on Cam Ward, Tennessee, because there is some potential there, at least from what I saw from the first quarter. Now, the third game that I predicted, or that I bet on, and I also won this bet, was Colts at Chargers. I just bet the Colts straight up at plus 110. And also, that game went exactly how I predicted it. I said the Chargers are going to have to prove that they can stop the Colts run. They were not able to. And even though the Chargers were not able to stop the run, that meant that they had to do a little bit of Superman on that side of the ball, just throwing the ball. And that caused some turnovers. Monster game, by the way, by the Chargers. But if you look at the stats, 3 touchdowns by Jonathan Taylor. The Colts just controlled that game Daniel Jones did not have a Superman game, but he did not have a slacking game either. He had over 200 yards, did his portion of it. That Colts team looks really, really good. All right. Now, to this week, before I get into the bets I'm choosing this week, a couple of stay away games. These are games that I looked at, considered, but at the end of the day, I said, maybe not. It's better not to. There's too many variables here. The first one here is the Bears at the Ravens, with the Ravens minus 6.5 for minus 110. There are way too many variables for this game. Is Lamar healthy? Is Lamar going to start? We don't even know that question. If the Lamar is going to start, how healthy is he? Is he 100%? I don't know. Is he going to look like the Lamar that we all know and love? We don't know. It was a hamstring injury, and one of Lamar's strengths is being able to run away from pressure and being able to kind of put the skates on some of those defenders. So with that hamstring injury, how much is he going to nurse that coming back in? And then also on the Bears side, Caleb Williams has been a little bit up and down. We saw Ben Johnson at one of the pressers saying, last game was a roller coaster, up and down. They need to stabilize there. And Caleb Williams in and of himself has been a roller coaster and very hard to predict. So we don't even know if the Ravens are going to win this game. So being able to confidently say the Ravens are able to pull a 7-point gap against the Bears, I just don't know. The Bears defense has been decent enough, so I don't know how this one's going to go down, and I just stayed away from that one. Next stay away game, the Bills minus 7 against the Panthers. This one was interesting. I looked at it and I said, oh, this is going to be running back versus running back, essentially. So both Bills and Panthers have great running backs, great running game. It might, because of that running game being so dominant on both sides, it might just come down to what quarterback makes a difference, those key plays. And of course, you would want to say Josh Allen, but I just don't have the confidence in saying the Bills are able to pull or lay more than 7 points against the Panthers at the end of the game. I just don't know. Too many variables. The Panthers have a key opportunity here to actually control the game for once. The Bills are second worst in the league against the run. Panthers aren't great either, but they both turn over the ball a lot, and there's way too many variables to confidently say that the Bills are going to confidently lay more than 7 points against the Panthers. They do want to stabilize before their game against the Chiefs a week after this week, but we'll see how that one goes. All right, my first bet this week, we got the Dolphins at the Falcons, minus 7.5 at minus 110. So this one, I just looked and said, all right, I like to look at the run. I like to look at what teams are able to do against the run. And just not even looking at the Dolphins offense right now, I'm looking at the Falcons. Just one player can make this whole game and be able to lay that 7.5 points or more for the Falcons. And that one player's name is Bijan Robinson. The Miami is the worst rushing yards per game defense in the league. They're giving up on average 159 yards per game. That is actually insane. When you go against someone like the Falcons and Bijan Robinson, that's not going to look pretty. That's going to mean that the Falcons are able to control that time of possession. The Dolphins are going to have to do some magic on their side on offense. And the Falcons defense is number one against passing yards per game. I mean, that combination of being able to control the game and the Dolphins need to do some magic on offense and really push the ball downfield, that's not a good combination. Tua is starting. There's question marks, of course, around that QB position on the Dolphins side. I don't think Tua is going to play the whole game. I think they're going to switch into another QB on the Dolphins side. So those variables on the Dolphins, it does not look good. And just a little bit of stats on the Falcons side and Falcons defense. They held Baker in week 1 to 167 yards, and they also held Josh Allen in week 6 to 180 yards, which is pretty decent by Josh Allen, but he threw 2 interceptions. So those are 2 elite quarterbacks going against that the Falcons went against. But this week against Tua and co, from the Dolphins. The Dolphins are not looking great. They do not look good whatsoever. Lots of question marks there. And I just think due to those factors, it's going to be quite a tough game for the Dolphins, quite a tough game for Tua and whoever comes in at quarterback. And I think due to those reasons, the Falcons are able to lay more than 7.5 points against the Falcons are against the Dolphins. All right, next one. Giants plus 7.5 against the Eagles. Now they played 2 weeks ago, and the Giants actually won. So I'm a little bit interested in why they have such a large spread against the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles have showed that they're able to lay this many points against a team consistently. So this one actually surprised me quite a bit. I'm not confident that the Giants will win this one. This one could go either way. Both defenses are not good against the run. In the Week 6 matchup, the Giants absolutely controlled that side of the ball. And the line of scrimmage, they had 172 yards in rushing. Saquon only had 12 carries that game, which is a little bit surprising. I think the game plan on the Eagles side this week is going to have to be let Saquon or your running backs get a lot of carries this game because the Giants are just not good at the rush. If you're able to do that, you're able to control the game a little bit more, create some space downfield for some passing. I just don't think that the Eagles are able to lay more than 7.5 points against the Giants. Giants are way too frisky, you know. They got Jackson Dart, they got Scadaboo, two very lively and tough players. Very fun to watch. I just don't think the Eagles are able to cover this, so I just took the Giants plus 7.5. And the last one, the Buccaneers at minus 4.5 against the Saints, or at the Saints, I should say. So this one, the Saints are the fourth lowest in the league in points per game, so they do not score very well in their games. The Buccaneers, their defense is actually sneakily good. They're a lot better than what they showed against the Lions, and they're coming off that big loss to the Lions. I think what they want to do, even with the injuries on the Bucs side, they want to stabilize and show the league that we're still in it for that number one seed. And I think they're going to for sure win against the Saints, and I think they're going to for sure lay 5 or more points against the Saints at the end. The Buccaneers defense is really good at pressuring the quarterback. They're number 6 in the league in sacks. They got 20 sacks so far in the season. And the last time the Saints faced such high pressure, was against Seattle, who's 3rd in sacks. And that was in week 3. And Seattle got 2 sacks and 8 QB hits. And the Saints lost 44-13 against Seattle. So this one, I think, is going to be quite easy for the Bucs. And if we're just looking at quarterback comparison, we're comparing Baker to Rattler. Rattler has been actually sneakily good, been doing quite good this season. I think he's actually a bright spot on the Saints team, surprisingly to a lot of folks. But I think this is just too much for the Saints to overcome. That O-line is going to be a nightmare for the Saints, I think, in this game. So those are my 3 bets. A little bit of a recap here. So the 3 bets I chose was Dolphins at the Falcons. I'm taking the Falcons at minus 7.5. Giants plus 7.5 at the Eagles. And then I'm taking the Bucs minus 4.5 against the Saints. Those are my 3 bets. I'm looking to go 3 for 3 and get myself in the green for this NFL season. I'm 3 for 3 on bets. Let's do it this week. What do you think about these bets? What will you take? What other bets will you take? Let me know, and I'll see you next week.